The cold came up through the concrete before dawn. Emily Parker pulled her thin blanket tighter and stared at the gray sky above the underpass. The smell of wet pavement mixed with old engine oil. Cars rushed overhead on Interstate 90. Nobody looked down. Nobody ever did. She sat up slowly and rubbed her hands together. Her fingers hurt every morning now. Chicago winters had a way of finding every weak spot in a person. The cold slipped through shoes, through jackets, through hope sometimes. Emily was 38 years old. A year earlier, she had owned a small apartment in the South Side. She had a used Honda. She had a steady job. Nothing fancy, nothing special, just a normal life. Now everything she owned fit inside one faded blue backpack. She reached inside and pulled out a notebook. The cover was bent, the pages were worn. Every morning she wrote 3 things she was grateful for. It was a habit she refused to lose, even now, especially now. She clicked a broken pen 3 times before it worked. A warm cup of coffee yesterday. No rain overnight. Still here. She looked at the words for a moment. Then she closed the notebook. Emily had no idea how important that little habit would become. By 7 o'clock, she was walking toward a church 2 miles away. They served coffee and oatmeal every Wednesday morning. The steam from the coffee fogged her glasses. She wrapped both hands around the paper cup. "Morning, Emily," said an older volunteer. "Morning, Mrs. Carter."
"You staying warm?" "Trying," Mrs. Carter smiled. "Keep trying." Simple words. They stayed with her all day. The church basement filled with people carrying their own stories. Some talked, some slept sitting up, some stared into nothing. Emily sat alone, not because she hated people, because shame was heavy, and heavy things made people quiet. The strange part was that she wasn't ashamed of being poor. She was ashamed of how fast everything disappeared. She still couldn't explain it without feeling foolish. A year ago, she worked billing and records for a private medical clinic. She wasn't rich. She barely made enough. But she paid her rent. She bought groceries. She called her mother every Sunday. Then one Tuesday afternoon, everything changed. She remembered that day perfectly. The clinic smelled like printer ink and hand sanitizer. Her manager asked her into the office. The door closed. That sound still lived in her head. "We're restructuring." Emily knew immediately. Her stomach dropped. "I'm sorry," her manager said. The words came out soft, practiced, like she had said them before. The company was cutting staff. Emily's position was gone. 2 weeks severance, health insurance ending soon. Good luck. That was it. 10 years disappeared in 10 minutes. She walked out carrying a cardboard box, a coffee mug, a family photo, a sweater. Nothing else. The city looked different that afternoon. Harder, colder, less forgiving. She thought she'd find another job quickly.
Most people do. At least that's what she told herself. Weeks became months. Interviews came and went. Nobody called back. A younger applicant got hired. A different applicant had better software skills. Another company froze hiring. Another company never replied. Her savings vanished. Then her credit cards filled. Then came payday loans. Then came panic. One bill became 10. One missed payment became many. The apartment manager taped a notice to her door. Emily stared at it for a long time. The paper shook in her hands. 30 days later, she was loading her life into a storage unit. That storage unit felt like a funeral. Her couch, her books, her dishes, her winter decorations, the small table where she drank coffee every morning. Everything sat behind a metal door. She locked it, then stood there crying. Nobody saw. That somehow made it worse. At first, she slept on a friend's couch, then another friend's couch, then another. People were kind, until kindness became inconvenience. Nobody said it directly. They didn't have to. The looks changed, the pauses got longer, the excuses arrived. Eventually, the couches ran out. Then she was outside. The first night felt impossible. The second night felt terrifying. The third night felt normal. That scared her most. Human beings adapt to almost anything, even things they should never have to accept. The library became her daytime home. The librarians knew her name. They never asked questions. They never made her feel unwanted.
She spent hours filling out applications, hours learning software programs through YouTube videos, hours pretending she wasn't homeless. The library card in her wallet felt more valuable than a credit card. It opened doors, literal doors. Some days that was enough. Around noon, Emily walked toward a supermarket near Bronzeville. She wasn't shopping. She couldn't afford to. But every afternoon, she sat outside near a side entrance. Not begging, never begging, waiting. There was a difference. The deli manager often brought out food scheduled for disposal. Rotisserie chicken, bread, prepared meals. Nothing wrong with them, just unsold. Emily hated taking them, but hunger hated pride, and hunger usually won. The manager's name was Frank, a thick man with tired eyes. He always carried food out himself. "Afternoon, Emily." "Hey, Frank." He handed her a paper bag. "Chicken salad today." "Thank you." "You don't have to thank me every time. I'm gonna anyway." Frank laughed. "Fair enough." She always looked him in the eye when she thanked him. That mattered. A lot of people stopped seeing homeless people. Frank never did. Emily carried the bag carefully, like it contained something precious. Because it did. Food meant another day, another chance, another morning. As she crossed the parking lot, a woman loading groceries into an SUV watched her. Emily noticed. She always noticed. People looked in different ways. Some looked with pity. Some looked with fear.
Some looked with judgment. This woman looked curious. Emily looked away and kept walking. She didn't know the woman would remember her. Not yet. Winter settled deeper over Chicago. December arrived. The city lights looked beautiful from a distance, cruel up close. Store windows filled with Christmas decorations. Families carried gifts. Music drifted through shopping centers. Emily spent Christmas Eve in a shelter. The room smelled like laundry detergent and old mattresses. Someone played holiday music through a small speaker. A volunteer served turkey and mashed potatoes. People smiled. People tried. The effort mattered, even if sadness still sat in the corners. Emily called her mother that evening. Her mother lived in Indiana. Poor health kept her there. Money kept Emily away. "How are you doing?" her mother asked. Emily stared at the shelter wall. "I'm okay." The lie came naturally. Mothers always knew anyway. "No, you're not." Emily closed her eyes. "No." "You still trying?" "Every day." "Good." A pause followed. Then her mother spoke softly. "You were always stubborn." Emily laughed. The sound surprised her. "So were you." "That's true." They sat in silence. Sometimes silence carried love better than words. After the call ended, Emily cried quietly. Not because she felt hopeless, because she missed being someone's daughter instead of someone's problem. The new year came. Nothing changed. Then something almost changed. A warehouse offered her a position. She made it through 2 interviews. The supervisor liked her. Everything looked good. Emily allowed herself to imagine an apartment again, a bed, a shower that belonged to her, a key. Then the company froze hiring. The position disappeared. Just like that. Emily sat on a bus bench staring at her phone. The battery showed 8%. The cracked screen reflected her face. She barely recognized herself. That was a hard day, one of the hardest. She walked for hours. No destination, no plan, just movement. Sometimes movement felt like survival. That night she almost quit trying. Not completely, just enough. The dangerous kind, the quiet kind, the kind nobody sees. She sat beside Lake Michigan, wrapped in her blanket. The wind cut through everything. Her notebook sat in her lap. She opened it. The page stayed blank. For the first time in months, nothing came. No gratitude, no hope, nothing.
Then she noticed a little girl nearby, maybe 8 years old. She was holding her father's hand. The girl pointed toward the lake. "Dad, look." "What?" "The moon." The father smiled. "Pretty, huh?" The girl nodded. "Really pretty." They kept walking. That was all. Nothing dramatic, nothing magical. Just a father and daughter looking at the moon. Emily stared upward. The moon reflected across the dark water. Still there. Still beautiful. Even now. She wrote 3 things. Moonlight, still breathing, tomorrow. Then she closed the notebook and kept going. February arrived.
Chicago turned gray. The cold seemed permanent. One afternoon, Emily visited her storage unit. She couldn't pay much longer. The manager gave her a warning. 2 more weeks. Then everything inside would be auctioned. She stood among the boxes. Her old life surrounded her. The apartment decorations, family pictures, books, winter coats, pieces of herself. She sat on a box and cried again. Nobody teaches people how to mourn objects, but objects carry memories, and memories weigh something. She touched an old framed photo, her and her mother at Navy Pier, both smiling, both younger. That photo almost broke her. She packed it into her backpack. One thing, just one. If everything else vanished, she wanted that. The following week, something unexpected happened. A shelter worker named Marcus approached her during dinner. Marcus knew everyone. He remembered names, birthdays, favorite foods, small details. Those details mattered. "Emily? Yeah? You good with computers?" "I guess." "You guess?" She smiled. "I used to be." Marcus nodded. "I know somebody looking for volunteers." Emily shrugged. "Doing what?" "Teaching basic computer skills." She laughed. "Nobody wants a homeless teacher." Marcus didn't laugh. "They might." Emily shook her head. "No chance." Marcus looked at her carefully. "You keep saying that." "Saying what?" "That nobody wants you." The words hit harder than she expected. Marcus stood. "I'm serious." He walked away. Emily watched him go. The conversation lasted less than a minute. She thought about it for weeks. Nobody wants you. Or maybe somebody does. The difference between those thoughts was everything. March brought rain. The snow melted into dirty slush. The city smelled wet and tired. Emily continued her routine. Library, applications, church meals, supermarket leftovers, shelter, repeat. Every day looked the same, but something inside her was shifting. Slowly, almost invisibly. She started helping people at the library, showing older visitors how to create email accounts, helping someone upload a resume, explaining spreadsheets. Small things, nothing important. At least that's what she believed. One afternoon, an elderly man struggled with a job application. His hands shook. The website confused him. Emily sat beside him. "Need help?" "Please." 20 minutes later, he was smiling. "There, you got it submitted." The man looked relieved. "I couldn't have done that." "Sure you could." "No." He pointed at her. "You could." The compliment stayed with her. Strangers sometimes saw things friends missed. Days later, she helped another person. Then another. Word spread. People began looking for her. Not officially, just quietly. The woman who worked the front desk noticed. "Emily." "Yeah? You're here helping people more than using computers." She laughed. "I guess. You ever think about teaching?" The question surprised her. A lot of things were surprising her lately. That evening, she collected another bag of leftovers from Frank. Turkey sandwiches, fruit, a bottle of water. "How's life?" Frank asked. Emily smiled. "Still standing?" "That's something." "Yeah?" He nodded. "It really is." She walked home, home being wherever she slept. The backpack felt lighter. The food felt heavier. The sky glowed orange behind downtown buildings. For a brief moment, she felt peaceful. Then she noticed someone following her. Not close, across the street. A woman, well-dressed, maybe mid-40s. Emily kept walking. The woman kept walking too. 2 blocks later, Emily stopped. The woman stopped. Emily turned. Their eyes met. It was the same woman from the supermarket parking lot months earlier. The woman hesitated, then crossed the street. Emily's heart sped up. Years of hardship taught caution. The woman approached slowly. Not threatening, just nervous. "Excuse me?" Emily tightened her grip on her backpack. "Can I help you?" The woman looked embarrassed. "I know this sounds strange." Emily waited. The woman glanced at the paper bag in Emily's hands, then back at her face. "I've seen you carrying those leftovers for months." Emily said nothing. The woman continued. "And every single time you looked grateful." The city noise seemed to fade. Just for a second. Cars passed. A siren echoed somewhere downtown. The woman took a breath. "I wanted to ask you something." Emily stood completely still.
She had no idea that one question was about to change everything. The woman held out her hand. "My name is Karen Mitchell." Emily shook it carefully. "Emily?" Karen smiled. "I know." That made Emily uneasy. Karen noticed. Not in a creepy way. Emily laughed despite herself. "Good. I shop at that store often." "The supermarket?" Karen nodded. "I've seen you there." Emily shifted her backpack. "Okay." Karen looked down for a moment, then back up. "I own a small business." Emily waited. Karen seemed unsure how to continue. That surprised Emily. People with money usually looked confident. Karen looked nervous. "You said you wanted to ask something." "Right." Karen took a breath. "My company teaches basic technology skills to seniors." Emily blinked. "What?" "We help older adults learn computers." Emily stared at her. The coincidence felt strange, almost impossible. Karen continued. "I've seen you thank that manager every day." Emily looked confused. "Okay." "You always smile." Emily laughed softly. "I'm getting free food. Seems rude not to." Karen smiled. Most people would have stopped noticing. The traffic rushed past beside them. Neither moved. Karen folded her arms. "I asked the store manager about you." Emily felt her stomach tighten. "What did he say?" "He said you're kind." Emily looked away. Karen continued. "He said you never complain." Emily didn't know what to say. "He said you help other people when you're struggling yourself."
Emily stared at the sidewalk. The cracks in the concrete suddenly seemed fascinating. Karen looked directly at her. "Do you know computers?" Emily nodded slowly. "I used to." Karen smiled. "Would you meet me tomorrow?" Emily almost laughed. "Why?" "Because I think you might be exactly who we're looking for." The word sounded ridiculous. Exactly who we're looking for. Nobody had said anything like that to Emily in years. Maybe ever. She shook her head. "You don't know me." "I know enough." "No." Karen stepped closer. "I know character when I see it." Emily felt something painful move inside her chest. Hope. Hope hurt when it returned after a long absence, because hope could leave again, and Emily knew what that felt like. What would I even do? Come talk. Just talk? Karen smiled. Just talk. Emily almost said no. Almost. Then she remembered Marcus. Nobody wants you. Or maybe somebody does. Okay. Karen handed her a business card. The card felt strangely heavy. Emily looked down. Mitchell Community Tech Center. A downtown address. A phone number. A website. Real. Not a dream. Karen smiled. 10 tomorrow morning. Emily nodded. I'll be there. Karen turned to leave, then stopped. I'm glad I finally said hello. Emily watched her walk away. The city suddenly looked different. Not better, just different. She slipped the card into her notebook, then headed toward the shelter. That night she barely slept. The shelter hummed with quiet sounds. Snoring. Coughing. People turning in beds. Emily stared at the ceiling. She kept reaching into her pocket, making sure the card was still there, still real. Morning came slowly. She woke before sunrise, showered, washed her hair, put on the cleanest clothes she owned. The outfit wasn't impressive. A faded blue sweater, black pants, worn shoes. But everything was clean. That mattered. She arrived 30 minutes early. The building sat on a quiet downtown street. Glass doors, bright windows, a small sign outside. Emily stood across the street for several minutes. Fear settled into her stomach. She suddenly felt homeless again. Not physically, emotionally. Everyone else seemed to belong somewhere. She didn't. A young man exited the building carrying coffee. He smiled. "Coming in?" Emily nodded. "Eventually." He laughed. "I said the same thing my first day." Then he walked away. Emily crossed the street. The doors opened automatically. Warm air hit her face. Inside smelled like coffee and fresh paint. A receptionist smiled. "Can I help you?" "I'm here to see Karen." The receptionist immediately brightened. "Oh, Emily." That surprised her. "She's expecting you." Karen greeted her 5 minutes later. No suit, no executive attitude, just jeans and a sweater. "Glad you came." Emily nodded. "Me too." They walked through the center. Computer stations lined several rooms. Older adults sat learning basic skills. One woman cheered because she finally attached a photo to an email.
Everyone around her clapped. Emily smiled. The woman looked proud, really proud. Karen noticed. "You like that?" Emily nodded. "Yeah, I thought you might." They entered Karen's office. The conversation lasted an hour. Then 2. Karen asked about Emily's background, her old job, her skills, her situation. Emily told the truth, all of it. The layoffs, the debt, the shelters, the storage unit, everything. Karen listened quietly. No judgment, no pity, just attention. At the end, Karen leaned back. "I don't have a full-time position." Emily's heart sank. Karen raised a hand. "But," that word stopped her. "I have a small contract position." Emily waited. "Very small." "How small?" 10 hours a week. "Not enough. Not even close." "Yet," Karen continued, "you'd help seniors with technology." Emily stared at her. "Why me?" Karen smiled. "Because people trust you." Emily laughed. "You met me yesterday." Karen nodded. "And I knew." Emily looked down. The offer wasn't much, but it was something. The first something in a very long time. "I'll take it." Karen smiled. "I hoped you'd say that." Emily walked out carrying paperwork. Not a job exactly. Not yet, but a beginning. The wind felt different that afternoon. The city looked brighter. Even the puddles reflected sunlight. She stopped at the library, then the supermarket. Frank handed her another bag. "Turkey wraps today." Emily grinned. "I got work." Frank blinked. "What?" "A small job." Frank's face lit up.
"I knew it," Emily laughed. "No, you didn't." "I absolutely did," he pointed at her. "You never quit." The words stayed with her. That night she wrote 3 things in her notebook. A chance, work, tomorrow. For the first time in months, she smiled before falling asleep. The first week went well. The second week went better. Emily discovered something important. She loved teaching. Not because she knew everything, because she remembered what confusion felt like. That made her patient. A retired truck driver struggled with passwords. Emily helped. A grandmother wanted video calls with her grandchildren. Emily helped. A veteran couldn't navigate online forums. Emily helped. Every success felt personal. Every smile mattered. Karen noticed. Everyone noticed. One afternoon, an elderly woman named Ruth grabbed Emily's hand. "You should have been doing this years ago." Emily smiled. "Maybe." "No." Ruth squeezed her hand. "I'm serious." Emily laughed. "You sound like my mother." Smart woman. That made Emily smile all afternoon. The contract position eventually expanded. 15 hours, then 20, then 25. Not enough money, but more money. Emily started eating regular meals. She renewed her phone plan. She paid part of her storage bill. Small victories. Huge victories. When you lose everything, tiny steps feel enormous. Then came another setback. A big one. Her mother suffered a stroke. The call arrived during work. Emily's hands shook.
The hospital sat 3 hours away. She barely had gas money. She borrowed Karen's car, drove through rain, prayed the entire way. Hospitals always smelled the same.
Clean, sharp, scary. Her mother looked smaller in the hospital bed, older, fragile. Emily sat beside her for hours. Her mother eventually opened her eyes. "Hey, kid." Emily cried immediately. "Hey, you still crying too much?" Emily laughed through tears. "You had a stroke." "Still." Emily squeezed her hand. Her mother smiled weakly. "You got that job?" Emily nodded. "Yeah." "Told you." "Told me what?" Her mother closed her eyes. "You're stubborn." Emily laughed again. Even then, her mother could make her laugh. The doctors expected recovery. Slow recovery, but recovery. Emily returned to Chicago exhausted, relieved, determined. Life kept moving. Months passed. Spring arrived, then summer. The city finally felt alive again. Flowers appeared. Trees turned green. People smiled more. Emily continued working, continued teaching, continued rebuilding. Then Karen called her into the office one morning. Emily immediately worried. Bad news always started this way. Karen smiled, which helped a little. "We received a grant." Emily waited. Karen slid paperwork across the desk. "What is this?" "A full-time position." Emily froze. The room suddenly felt very quiet. Karen smiled wider. "Benefits too." Emily stared at the papers. Health insurance, retirement plan, salary, real salary, not huge, but real. Her vision blurred. Karen's voice softened. "You okay?" Emily nodded, then shook her head, then laughed, then cried, all at once. Karen walked around the desk and hugged her. Emily cried harder. Not because of money, not because of the job, because somebody believed she was worth investing in. Sometimes that's what people need most. Belief. Months later, Emily rented a tiny apartment. Nothing special. 1 bedroom, old building, South Side. But it was hers. The first night felt strange. Too quiet. No shelter noise, no traffic overhead, no fear of losing a bed. She sat on the floor because she owned almost no furniture. A pizza rested beside her. The room echoed. She smiled, then cried. Again. She seemed to cry a lot lately. Good tears this time. Mostly. That night she unlocked her storage unit, for the first time in over a year. The metal door rolled upward. Everything remained exactly where she left it. Boxes, furniture, memories. Her old life. Emily stood there smiling. Then she carried 1 box to her car. Just one. A beginning, not an ending. She had no idea how much farther she still had to go. And she had no idea that something waiting inside that storage unit would soon create an opportunity nobody could have imagined. Emily spent the next several weekends unpacking her storage unit. The work went slowly, partly because there was a lot to move, mostly because every box carried memories. Some memories felt warm, others still hurt. She found old photo albums, birthday cards, a coffee mug from her first office job, a stack of notebooks she had forgotten existed. One Saturday afternoon, she sat on the floor of her apartment, surrounded by dusty boxes. Sunlight poured through the window. A baseball game played quietly on television. She opened another notebook, then another, then froze. Every notebook contained gratitude lists, years of them, not just from homelessness, from before, during her marriage, after her divorce, during her mother's health scares, after layoffs, during hard winters, during good years, during bad years. Every notebook held the same habit. 3 things, every day, sometimes big, sometimes tiny. Coffee, a phone call, a sunset, a second chance, a stranger's kindness, a safe place to sleep. Emily smiled. Then she kept reading. Hours passed. She barely noticed. The pages told a story, not intentionally, but clearly. A story about surviving, a story about paying attention, a story about finding small light in dark places. By evening, she had stacked dozens of notebooks beside her. An idea appeared. Not a complete idea, just the beginning of one. She couldn't stop thinking about it. Monday morning, she carried several notebooks to work. Karen noticed immediately. "What's all that?" Emily laughed. "My weirdness."
Karen opened one, then another, then another. Her eyes widened. How long have you been doing this? Years. Karen kept reading. She looked up. Emily. What? This is good. Emily laughed. No, it isn't. Karen pointed at a page. Yes, it is. It's just gratitude lists. Karen shook her head. No. She tapped the notebook. It's a human story. Emily didn't believe her. At least not then. Life continued. Work grew busier. The technology center expanded. More students arrived. More classes filled. Emily became one of the most requested instructors. Not because she was the smartest, because she cared. People felt that. You can't fake caring. People always know. One afternoon, a local newspaper visited the center. They were writing about community programs. The reporter interviewed several staff members. Then Karen surprised Emily. You should talk too. Emily shook her head immediately. No. Why? I hate attention. Karen laughed. I've noticed. The reporter eventually approached anyway. A young woman named Claire. Friendly. Curious. She asked simple questions. Emily answered honestly. The article appeared 2 weeks later. Emily barely thought about it. Then something strange happened. Emails started arriving. People wanted to know more. About her story. About the notebooks. About gratitude. One email stood out. A publishing company. Emily assumed it was fake. She nearly deleted it. Then Karen stopped her. Call them. It's probably spam. Call anyway. Emily rolled her eyes, then called. The conversation lasted 20 minutes, then an hour, then several meetings. Nobody promised anything. Nobody guaranteed success. But they liked her story. They liked the notebooks. Most of all, they liked that everything was real. No dramatic inventions, no fake inspiration, just honesty. Months passed. Emily worked during the day. She organized notebook entries at night. The process felt exhausting. She nearly quit several times. Writing forced her to revisit painful memories. The eviction, the shelter, the hunger, the loneliness. Some nights she closed the laptop and cried. Some wounds heal. Others become scars. Scars don't hurt every day, but they never fully disappear. Karen stayed supportive. So did Marcus. So did Frank. All the people who had helped her survive. One evening, Emily sat with Frank outside the supermarket, the same place she once waited for leftovers. Customers pushed shopping carts past them. The air smelled like grilled chicken from the deli. Frank listened quietly as she explained the publishing process. Then he laughed. What? You used to sit right there. He pointed toward the wall. Emily smiled. I know. Now you're writing a book? She laughed. When you say it like that, it sounds ridiculous. Frank nodded. It kinda is. They both laughed. Then Frank became serious. You earned it. Emily looked down. The words meant a lot coming from him, because Frank had seen everything. The hunger, the shame, the waiting, the survival. All of it. A year later, the book was published. Nobody expected much, not even Emily, especially not Emily. The first month brought modest sales. The second month brought more. Then something unexpected happened. Readers started sharing passages online. Videos appeared. Book clubs discussed it. Church groups recommended it. Counselors recommended it. Teachers recommended it. The message spread. People connected with the simplicity. Not because everyone had been homeless, most hadn't, but everyone knew hardship. Everyone knew loss. Everyone knew fear. Everyone knew what it felt like to keep going when quitting seemed easier. The story wasn't really about homelessness. It was about being human. That made all the difference. The book eventually became a national bestseller. Even then, Emily struggled to believe it. She kept checking the lists, reading them again, certain there had been a mistake. There wasn't. Interviews followed. Speaking invitations followed. Partnerships followed. The opportunities grew larger every year. Companies hired her to speak. Universities invited her. Community organizations partnered with her. Her financial situation changed completely. For the first time in her life, she had savings, real savings, not emergency money, not survival money, savings. The feeling almost scared her. She checked her bank account constantly, not because she loved money, because she couldn't believe it stayed there. Years of instability leave marks. Even good news feels temporary. One afternoon, Emily stood inside a newly purchased office building. She owned it. That fact felt impossible. The building would become a non-profit center. Free technology training, career coaching, resume support, housing resources, everything she wished she had found earlier. Reporters asked why she was investing so much. Her answer never changed. Because somebody helped me. That was it. That was always it. Nobody succeeds alone. Not really. The older Emily became, the more she understood that truth. Every success carried fingerprints. Mrs. Carter, Marcus, Frank, Karen, the librarians, the strangers, the people who offered small kindnesses. Those kindnesses mattered. Years later, her mother attended the opening of the nonprofit center, walking slowly, using a cane, but smiling, very much smiling. Emily stood beside her. Hundreds of people filled the building. Volunteers, students, community leaders, families, reporters. Everyone talking, everyone celebrating. Her mother squeezed her hand. "You did good." Emily laughed. "You always say that." "Because it's true." Emily looked around the room. For a moment, she saw every version of herself. The young woman with a stable job, the scared woman carrying boxes into storage, the homeless woman under the overpass, the teacher, the writer, the speaker, the builder. All the versions existed together. None disappeared. None needed to, because every version helped create the next one. Late that night, Emily returned home alone. The celebration had ended. The crowds were gone. The city lights glowed outside her window. Chicago looked beautiful. She walked into the bathroom, stopped, and stared at her reflection. Not because something was wrong, because something finally felt right. For years, she avoided mirrors. Not intentionally, just naturally. She didn't like what she saw. Not her appearance, her exhaustion, her fear, her loss. Now she saw something different. Peace. Not perfection. Peace. A much harder thing to find. She smiled at herself. A simple smile. Nothing dramatic. Just recognition. There you are. After all these years, there you are. She stood there a long time, then laughed softly, because success didn't feel like she expected. It wasn't luxury. It wasn't applause. It wasn't magazine articles or speaking fees. Those things were nice, but they weren't the point. Success felt like safety. It felt like belonging. It felt like waking up without fear. It felt like helping someone else carry their burden. It felt like recognizing yourself again. Months later, Emily returned to the supermarket. Not for food, not for work, just because she happened to be nearby. Frank still worked there. Older now, more gray hair, same smile. He spotted her immediately. "Look who it is." Emily laughed. "You still giving away leftovers?" "Every day." "Good." Frank looked at her, then pointed toward the same wall where she once waited. "You remember?" Emily nodded. Every detail. They stood quietly for a moment. Customers came and went. Cars filled the parking lot. Life moved forward around them. Frank finally spoke. "You know what I remember most?" "What?" "You always said thank you." Emily smiled. "Because I meant it." "I know." That was the thing. She really did. Even then, even at her lowest, she meant it. And maybe that was where everything started. Not the gratitude notebook, not the job, not the book, not the success. The gratitude itself. The decision to notice what remained instead of only what was gone. That choice changed everything. Not overnight, not magically. Slowly, day by day. One small, thankful moment at a time. As years passed, Emily's nonprofit expanded across several cities. Thousands of people found jobs through its programs. Thousands more learned skills. Some found housing. Some found confidence. Some simply found someone who believed in them.
and sometimes that was enough to start. The opportunities kept growing, far beyond anything Emily imagined while carrying supermarket leftovers home. Yet she never stopped writing 3 things every morning, no matter where she traveled, no matter how successful she became. The habit stayed, one notebook after another, one day after another, because she understood something important. The habit wasn't about gratitude. Not really. It was about attention. It taught her to notice life, to notice people, to notice kindness, to notice possibility, even when possibility looked very small, especially then. One cold evening many years later, Emily walked along Lake Michigan,
The same shoreline where she once sat feeling defeated. The same water, the same moon, the same city. Everything looked different, and exactly the same. She opened a notebook, wrote 3 things. Moonlight, people who helped, another tomorrow. Then she smiled and closed it. The wind moved across the lake. The city lights shimmered on the water. And for the first time, she fully understood something. The people who changed her life never gave her a miracle. They gave her moments. A coffee, a conversation, a chance, a meal, a ride, a belief. Small things, human things. The kinds of things anyone can give. The kinds of things that quietly save lives. Sometimes the strongest people are not the ones who never fall. They're the ones who keep standing up one more time than life knocks them down. Sometimes success begins long before the paycheck arrives. It begins the moment a person decides they still matter. It begins when someone notices another human being and treats them with dignity. Every person carries struggles nobody else fully sees. Every person carries strengths they may not recognize yet. And every act of kindness has a future attached to it that we cannot predict. The world changes more often through ordinary people than extraordinary ones. The question is not whether you have the power to change someone's life. The question is whether you will notice the chance when it appears.
Never underestimate what can grow from one small act of gratitude and one person who chooses to care.